All right, everybody, welcome back to Hoops Unfiltered, man. Here with the man who needs no introduction at this point, Mr. Rashad Phillips. Man, last time you made history by being my first virtual guest. Now you're about to make history again by being my first repeat guest.
I like your show.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate that, man. Yeah, and then you gave me some time during approaching draft season. I know this is a busy time for you, and the playoffs going on. You know, you got to keep tabs on Trey and Ja. So definitely appreciate you giving me some of your time here.
No, I appreciate it. Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. If I put the camera on my desk right now, you wouldn't believe all the notebooks and that I got right here in front of me right now.
Oh man, so I'm gonna try to value your time. Got a couple things to get through, but we're gonna get
Yeah,
through 'em. But
let's have fun.
just just give me a snapshot of what your life looks like, as the draft approaches. I know a lot of people, value your opinion with good reason. So just kind of talk about what what things you go through during this time of the year.
Yeah, a normal day for me isn't normal. So it's like now that the kids are out of school, I got two daughters. So this is a day in the life of me. My youngest daughter obviously is a basketball player, so I train her at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we get up at 7. She's 8 years old. She'll be 9 soon, but you know how that is trying to get a little one up. Get her up, train her at 8 o'clock in the morning. We do about an hour with her. Um, 9 o'clock hits, I'm in my office. I'm receiving calls from players, agents, NBA personnel throughout the entire day, trying to schedule flights for me to go see this prospect, this prospect. In the midst of all of that, watching tons of tape, writing out things, studying the game, studying players, trying to keep up with the playoff basketball as well. Then I have to take my 14-year-old and stop that, take my 14-year-old to gymnastics practice, sit there for 4 hours in my car, still receiving phone calls, writing notes in my notepad, doing that, and come back home, catch a playoff game, maybe the Hawks or Memphis, and doing that. And that's every day for me. That's every day. And
No rest for the weary, man.
no, man, it's just, you know what? But I love it. I would have it no other way, man. It's just like basketball just consumes me. Um,
Hmm.
and I love it. It's just, I'm always available for the right people and just trying to help kids push the game forward, get them in position, and, also just maintaining my transparency at the same time. So it's just, I would have it no other way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, man, today, just we definitely gonna get into this positions dictionary thing. I feel like the conversation around that is just evolving every day and it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Um, then, gonna talk about some straight up hoop talk as well.
Yeah.
But starting off, you did Baron Davis's podcast, Point Guard, and
Yeah.
that was a great show. I mean,
It was great.
as you can imagine, it would be with two guys of your experience talking. But one thing that stuck out to me, both of you kind of emphasized that players need to have an identity. When you were kind of saying that, the first person I thought of was Gilbert Arenas. Mainly because he talked about how when he got to the Wizards, Eddie Jordan wasn't really running the offense that catered to him to be able to maximize his potential. So it was beneficial for him, but I wanted to ask, can that be kind of detrimental to a player that's really not honest about themselves? Of course, Gilbert, we saw the results of
Yeah.
him, kind of saying, hey, this thing needs to go another way. But there's probably people out there that want to do the things Gilbert did, but are just maybe better in another situation or system. So just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's always important to go in a situation understanding who you are. There's a lot of times where players go to teams and they're trying to be something that they're not. Here's an example. If you know you are not a scorer, going into camp trying to be a scorer, you may end up losing your job because you're trying to be something that you're not. Know what your identity is and try to maximize that. If you look at guys, history tells us this. You look at guys like like Robert Ory, who came
Mhm.
into the league and kind of knew his identity. You got guys like Draymond Green came into the league, knew his identity. Like guys that maximize who they are. No, I'm not going to lead the league in scoring. I'm not going to, but I know who I am. I'm gonna maximize that, and I'm gonna be the epitome of that. Let's talk. Tony Allen. Tony
Mhm.
Allen knew when he came into the league, like I'm going to be a defensive stopper, and that's where I'm gonna get my most minutes, and that's how I'm gonna make my money. And he epitomized that, and he became one of the best defenders ever. Know your identity.
Yeah. So like, do you think sometimes people are influenced by what's going on around them? Like, now we're in the age of scoring point guards and things like that. But say you got a player that's like, say you got a guy identical to Rondo coming into the league right
A
now,
traditional guard.
right? But that's not sexy right now. Do you think
No,
they try to be something else as opposed to be their natural selves sometimes?
of course you're going to always have outside influences, and always we chase what's popular, right? What's
Hmm.
popular is the player that can put the ball in the basket. And it's unfortunate because the game calls for so much more than just putting the ball in the basket. And the
Absolutely.
smart ones figure that out, and they're able to make a living doing the other things. You see? So
Hmm.
I do think a lot of times where players come in as a traditional guard, and now but you're trying to be a hybrid guard, where you're probably not going to work out for you because that's just not who you are. You know,
Right.
your makeup, your DNA is your DNA at the end of the day. And that's why in a situation like that, it's detrimental to a player's growth.
Mm. So what like how do you combat that? Like, do you put it on mostly the player to kind of come in and say, "Hey man, I am who I am. I'm gonna do this and hope for the best," or like is it some responsibility for the coaches too to be like of course if they watch tape on this guy in college or where he's played previously and it's like, "Hey man, this is not your game. You're more useful doing this stuff," or is it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. Both parties have to do their job, but I
Mhm.
would put more of the responsibility on the coaches. Like you watch me on film, you know what I am, and yet and still you're not allowing me to be that. And I'm speaking from experience here. You know, I remember going into certain teams and they're trying to make me traditional. There's nothing on my tape traditional. There's nothing in my stats that is traditional, but somehow you're trying to jam me into that slot. And ultimately, I end up losing because it's like, well, he doesn't fit what we're trying to do here. Well, you didn't see who I was on film and the stats. Like you tried to make me, you tried to make me something that I wasn't,
Right.
another reason why my positions metric is so important to the basketball community because this allows you not to be in that situation
Hmm.
because it's giving everybody fingerprints
Right.
to be able to come to a team knowing your identification and playing to that identification.
So yeah, man. So I think with that, these like we've discussed before, these positions aren't new. You
No,
just kind of gave them identity.
yeah,
So what's the earliest you can think of where these positions start the new label positions started to show themselves in the NBA?
yeah. Well, I want to get this out on your show. I want to say this before I answer that question. Um, for me, this is not about. I've heard people come to me and say, "Oh, you didn't invent positions," and no, I didn't. I didn't. I never claimed that I did. Um, it's just like cars and phones, and all I've done is updated.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We live in a world of evolution. We live in a world of updating. Sometimes my phone has to update, so I'm not the person sitting here on this high horse saying I created positions.
Right.
That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to give my intellectual input into a game that I've studied since birth and try to update the terminology to fit today's players. So
Right.
there was a mousetrap that was invented in 1920. They still making mousetraps today, but the difference is that they're updated mousetraps.
Right.
All I'm doing is updating what's been created. That's all that is. So I wanted to answer that on your show, but to go back to your question, this this goes back far. Like we can take Spencer Haywood
Mm-hmm.
when he averaged 30 points a game in the ABA, and he was labeled a power forward slash center. Spencer Haywood was a hybrid post.
Right.
That's what he was. So these position metrics date back all the way to the 60s. It may be even further, and that's the beauty of this metric is that we can go back in time and actually identify what our favorite players were back then that were probably mislabeled.
Mm-hmm. So what like the names themselves, it's nothing complex about it, but it's kind of spot on. Like what was the process behind just narrowing down the terminology in itself?
Yeah, that took some time. I really gave this a lot of thought, like over the years. Like I've been kind of sitting on this idea since like 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just done extensive research on just trying to figure out how it's going to make sense. How do I keep it as simple but relevant
Mm-hmm.
and as evolved as possible? So I started to just study the players and say, I'm gonna let the players speak to me. Like when I watch them, what is that? When I watch Jason Kidd, what is it?
Right.
He's a traditional guard. When I watch Isaiah Thomas, what is that? Point guard. When I watch Magic Johnson, point guard. What is Kevin Durant? What is LeBron James? Come on, LeBron, speak to me. Let me study your film. Speak dual forward. Grant Hill, dual forward. You see, like I allowed the game to speak to me. And then when I felt it was right, I studied on it and then I started to release it to the world. So this is something that I've been working on for over 10 years. This is not,
Okay.
I just woke up on one side of the bed and wanted some clicks on Twitter and Instagram and say, oh, look, I want some attention. No, 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 no. It's way deeper than that.
Right, man. Because just kind of looking at it and thinking about it, I mean, it did require some type of change had to be made in the way that people are talked about. Because you brought up guys like LeBron and Grant Hill. Like these are multifaceted players. So like yeah, on the depth chart, of course they're gonna list LeBron at small forward, but he does the duties of a point guard, but he also is the leading scorer.
Which makes him a dual
Right.
forward.
So yeah, man, it's just kind of funny, like like you said, you let the player speak to you, so yeah, that's it's genius, but it's simple at the same time. And I think that's what makes it, that's what makes it relatable, and that's what causes it to spread like wildfire. Um, So I'm gonna ask you to put your coach's hat on for a second here.
All right. All right.
Like what if you could think about, most teams have a like a duo. So if you could take that duo and pair any of the two positions, what you think is the most lethal combination?
Woo. I like the dual forward and the hybrid post combination
Hmm.
a lot. Or I can go hybrid guard and hybrid post combination. So we've looked at, and it's worked. You look at LeBron James and Anthony Davis,
Hmm.
dual forward, hybrid post, always in the thick of things, right?
Right.
Hybrid guard, Steph Curry, hybrid post, Draymond Green, kind of works, right? So I always look at the data and see how it plays out. But the beauty of this metric is that you're able to play this mix and match. Let me put a TG with a CG with two HPs and a PC, and let's see if it works. And
Hmm.
that's the fun part of being a coach and recruiting, is that it gives you more options to be able to slot these positions to see how they work.
Right. So now say you have a player that kind of runs the gamut, or is that even possible? Like, do you have a guy that can be labeled as more than one thing, or is he just labeled as one position because he's so dynamic and so versatile?
That's a great question. So I call those SCs, slot changers.
Mm,
There's a few slot changers that are able to, depending on the ideology of the offense. So let's take Chris Webber.
mm,
Chris Webber's a SC. He's a slot changer. He was a power forward, right? By nature. By
right.
nature, by his fabric is power forward. But if you give him a certain team, he can go to point center. So if you look
Okay.
at Chris Webber during his Warrior days and his Washington Bullet days, he was a power forward. But when he went to Sacramento, what was he? The point center.
Yeah. Yeah. He initiated, dished out the rock. Yeah. Okay.
They ran 2 point centers with him and Vladi.
Hmm.
And Weber ended up averaging 20, 10, and 5 because he was a point center. So I call him a slot changer. So there's players that can slot change. Isaiah Thomas was a slot changer. Isaiah could play traditional. He could be the point guard, or he can be the hybrid for the Pistons.
Hmm.
But here's the thing about that term. People try to overuse that. When I try to introduce the slot changer, then people get too wild with it, right? It's like, well, LeBron is he's this LeBron is, it's like, no, LeBron's a dual forward. The word dual gives you versatility, so you don't have to put him anywhere else.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? People try
Hmm.
to, and I understand people, it's new and it's fun, but you have to understand it. Like, you can't abuse it, because then you're just making a mockery of the purity of the game by just trying to throw people all over the place, just because you want to say, well, Rashad, you said it's a slot changer, so he's going here and he's going there. You see what I'm saying? It's like,
Right.
no, that's
Right.
not how it works.
So let me ask you this. We've seen people mislabeled, as a and have negative effects. Have you ever seen like somebody being mislabeled the other way? Like, just because say they're a versatile scorer, then people would say like, oh, well, they can't be just one position. Like, have you ever come across that?
Um, not necessarily. I think that, unfortunately, the five positions, you just automatically jam a person in one of those five, regardless.
Hmm.
So it's just something that it's a natural situation because of the 5 slots. Let's just take a kid. I'm not going to say his name because I got to talk about him for my draft stuff. But there's a kid in the draft this year that's people are saying he's just a scorer and that's it. He can't do anything else. It's like we're already predetermining what he is. We don't know what he's working on behind the curtains or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. It's like we got to stop giving these early identifications or jamming them into these 5 slots and allow them to speak to us. The player will tell us what they are through their style of play. We like scouts a lot of times get caught up of just trying to just, oh, he's a point guard and just throw him
Mm-hmm.
that term, or he's a center, or he's this, and he's really a stretch big. He's not a center, he's not a power forward, he's a stretch big. So we got to really dig into the tape and allow the style to tell us what they are. The style tells us where to put the metric.
Right, right. All right. So, I'm gonna start early. Give me the greatest players at each position. Traditional five and the added seven.
Woo, okay. Let's start with TG, traditional guard. So the greatest traditional guard of all time, in my opinion, is Jason Kidd.
Okay.
Um, the greatest point guard of all time, in my opinion, is Isaiah Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest hybrid guard of all time is Steph Curry. The greatest combo guard of all time is Dwayne Wade.
Okay.
The greatest shooting guard of all time is Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant's right there. The greatest small forward of all time, Kevin Durant. The greatest dual forward of all time, LeBron James. The greatest power forward of all time, Tim Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest center of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The greatest hybrid post of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon. The greatest stretch big of all time, Dirk Nowitzki. The greatest point center of all time, Nikola Jokic.
Nice.
So when you see that, that cures a lot of arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got Steph Curry as a point guard. We throwing him in there. We got Iverson in there. And with Dwayne Wade, everybody's saying Dwayne Wade is the third best shooting guard of all time. Well, he's not a shooting guard. He's a combo guard. So he's not even in that argument. Like I've watched us argue over these 5 positions, and I'll sit back and saying, you guys are arguing over players that are not even in those positions. Is Steph Curry the greatest point guard of all time? No, because he's not a point guard. He's the greatest hybrid guard of all time. So it's like this position metric actually cures the toxic arguments amongst players as well.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them their own mountains to sit on.
Right. Yeah. And I think I really recently have just kind of shied away from all that to begin with,
Me
because
too.
for kind of what you just got into, like guys aren't even what they're being said that they are. So, and then people's criteria just changes so much. But yeah, I just feel like, I like your list. I mean, is when people give their opinion, it's not worth arguing because everybody is going to look at it a different way. So
Right.
so just as briefly as you can, just say like what makes you put a player at the top of each slot.
I just think that they are the epitome of the definition
Mm,
of that metric. I think Isaiah Thomas is the epitome of a point guard. Now, people may say, well, Magic Johnson, and I love Magic Johnson, but I believe Isaiah um, gets the nod for me because he was able to do everything Magic Johnson was able to do, but 8 inches smaller, and he shot the ball better.
mm-hmm.
So I just think that that kind of, for me, maybe that's the biasness of me being smaller or whatever, but I just know it's easier to do things when you're taller. That's just nature,
Yeah,
right? Like if you can't reach the cookies at the refrigerator, right? So a taller person has to. Everything's easier when you're tall.
right, right.
So it's always a challenge when you're smaller. So I just believe that Isaiah Thomas just overcame more with
Mm-hmm.
the hand that he was dealt. So he gets the nod for me as the greatest point guard of all time.
Right, yeah. I mean, can't argue with that because for him to sneak into during that era, that's
He did the impossible. He did the impossible.
yeah, that's craziness, man. So let me ask you this. How long before you think, or if ever, we kind of see the depth chart changing?
Man, I give it 3 years, man. I give it 3 years.
Wow, really?
3 to 5 years, man. It'll be people will be using the terms. Like 3 years. I mean, some scouts that I've talked to personally
Mhm.
are already using it within their circles.
Wow.
So it's just going to spread, and that's what I wanted to do
Hmm.
because it's only going to push the game forward. It's only helping you recruit. It's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
Everybody benefits from using it. It's like there's no losers in using this metric. So we can't be still using terms from 1946 to right now. Are we still driving 1946 vehicles? No. So why are we using the same terminology from 1946? We're calling LeBron James something that they created in 1946 today. There's something wrong with that. If you don't see nothing wrong with that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, man. At some point, you got to start to talk about things differently, and even to your point earlier, like they aren't new, but when you get new information, you gotta, you gotta change your thought pattern. I mean, it's like I said, it's only smart to do that. So
Everybody
you know,
wins.
with that being said, it kind of and you're saying scouts are starting to use it and everything like that. Do you think people truly understand what each label means? Like, so do you think if you gave a quiz and just told people, hey, label these 15 guys, do you think they really capture the essence of what each position entails?
I think so. I think it's pretty self-explanatory once you read
Mhm.
the definitions. You're going to get people who want to give pushback. Well, that's dual forward. It's not. It's point forward. It's like we've been so conditioned to not think and only just listen to them or listen to that or listen to this here, listen to this. Like this is the template, and you can't go outside of this template. Like we can't update the template. Like
Right.
the players have updated the template. I haven't. LeBron James updated it because he's 6'9", 260, and he does everything. He's
Hmm.
updated the terms, not me. Steph Curry has updated the terms because he shoots from the fourth level. He's doing it. It ain't me. So you guys can't be mad at me for finding a terminology because of the players that you cheer for. What you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. So I kind of feel like you answered this earlier with the with the slot changer thing, but if I did want you to go into a little more detail, like, so can two people label the same player differently and both of them be right?
yes. Let's take Allen Iverson. Some people have Allen Iverson as a shooting guard. Some people have him as a point guard or a hybrid guard. Like, you can have different views on that player, but ultimately it comes down to how he's used.
Hmm.
Now, Iverson wasn't used as a hybrid guard, even though he's a hybrid guard.
Right.
Iverson was used as a shooting guard. Larry
Hmm.
Brown put Eric Snow, who's a TG, a traditional guard, and put Iverson as the shooting guard. But Iverson, by fabric, is a hybrid. So to answer your question, absolutely.
Okay. So do you think let's take AI for example. Do you think, because he had his best season, of course, 2000, 2001, he was, functioning as a shooting guard.
Yeah.
Do you think, had he been used as a hybrid, he would have been able to have the same level of success? Because I mean, I feel like that's, um, I guess for lack of a better term, I'll say more responsibility. But for him
Yeah.
to just be able to focus strictly on scoring, do you think that kind of allow him to blossom even more?
Yeah, I think him playing strictly the shooting guard slot gave him the opportunity to really just score the ball.
Hmm.
Eric Snow doesn't get enough credit for how tremendous he was with that Philadelphia 76er team. He was the thinker, he was the quarterback, he was the offensive anchor and a defensive anchor in regards to putting everybody in position, making the game easy for everybody else around him. So I believe that, Iverson playing the shooting guard slot um, is fits why Iverson is so iconic, because we were able to watch him on TV shoot 35 times a game and go for 60 on people. Like, we wanted AI to just gun it, right? Just gun it. Don't
Absolutely.
pass. Just gun it and cross people over. That's all we wanted to see.
I'm actually glad you brought up Eric Snow, because people, all these conversations come up about bad teams that made the finals. Like,
Oh,
personally, I don't think there's a bad team that's ever made the finals. You're not going to make the finals if you're a bad team. But you, of course, that 0-1 Sixers team gets mentioned. The '07 Cavs, um, and then one of those Houston teams that they got the two in 93, 94. But I think the fact that they just had one, just one central figure that was so dynamic, people just kind of naturally minimize what everybody else did. But I think the fact that everybody else did their jobs to perfection
yes,
allowed the main guy to kind of get them over the hump, which is what they're there for. So
yes.
just kind of talk about that a little bit. There has like, a lot of times, do you feel like somebody is so good that they kind of hurt their teammates' reputation?
In this instant, no, I think Iverson was exactly what he needed to be for that '01 Philly team. I believe everybody on that team did their job to perfection.
Hmm.
Eric Snow did his job to perfection. Dikembe Mutombo did his job to perfection. Aaron McKee did his job to perfection. George Lynch. Those guys played their roles to the highest level that it could possibly be played, and that's why they went to the finals. Um, us as fans, we just love to create these heroic stories for our favorite players, right? And look, I'm guilty of it. Like, so, hey, I'm an Iverson fan. I want to create this heroic narrative that the rest of his four teammates wasn't really that good. And he took us here and he did this. Look, man, the reality is that the '01 Philadelphia 76ers was one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there was a lot of reasons why. Dikembe Mutombo was a defensive player of the year. Eric Snow was probably the best point guard on ball defender in the league at the time. He was
Mm-hmm.
big, he was strong, he had quick feet. You couldn't post him up, so he never needed double coverage. He can single coverage everybody. It was one of the reasons why the New Jersey could never beat Philly until they changed the rules in '02 with the illegal defense because Eric Snow could guard Jason Kidd one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is just basketball stuff though. Like that doesn't feed into the fandom. The
Right.
fandom is that Iverson is Superman and he carried these four humans to the finals and he beat Shaq one time and that's it.
Yeah, because I mean, like AI is my favorite player ever, and when
Yeah,
I'm
mine too.
younger, like I was what 16, 17 when that happened. So of course I'm a see it as, I mean, he's just out there wrecking shop as a just a one man wrecking crew. But
Yeah,
as I got older, I started to notice some of the things you just brought up. But see, people think when you acknowledge the contributions of the teammates, it
it takes away.
diminishes, right? But you need both of those things to happen for them to get to that point. Like I'll take the '90s Bulls.
Okay.
Mike's the GOAT. He's incredible. But he was incredible before. But before Scottie Pippen raised his game, before Horace Grant came into his own, he wasn't having the success that he saw. Like you don't win 6 championships in 8 years
By
with just
yourself.
one guy being incredible. If that was
No.
the case, Mike would have won all the championships
Yeah.
if that was possible. So
Very
yeah,
true.
like we kind of got off track a little bit, but no, that was I definitely wanted to hear your thoughts about that because I think we're in a day and age where if somebody else next to you does something great, that means you're not as great, which is just foolish to me because
Yeah.
basketball is 5-on-5. Need
Yes.
somebody else to do something.
It's a team sport. I mean, we talk about Shaq and Kobe's run as champions, right?
Hmm.
But it was Robert Ory who hit the big shot to beat Sacramento.
Yeah.
It wasn't Shaq and it wasn't Kobe who made that shot. You see what I'm saying? Like contributions from your teammates. I mean, I could just take my own story, playing at University of Detroit. Like I had great teammates, man. Like
Hmm.
I couldn't have won all those games without great teammates. I played with Willie Green. Willie Green played 12 years in the NBA. I played with Jermaine Jackson. Jermaine Jackson played 8 years in the NBA. Desmond Ferguson was one of the best shooters in the country. Like I didn't do it by myself. I had great contribution, you know?
Right, right. And just for everybody watching, he won a lot of games, which includes going 50-1 at home. So just to let y'all know, it wasn't sweet out there.
It wasn't sweet.
But so back to these positions. Like who are some players that immediately come to mind that you feel like have been the most negatively impacted by being improperly identified?
Man, I mean, I'm a historian, man. So I'm gonna go back in the day and give you one. Brad Sellers was um, a 7-footer that was a first round pick, and he was slotted as a power forward center, and he really was a stretch big.
Mm.
And he only got to shoot 15 threes in 6 years, and he was out the league. And
Wow.
he wasn't out the league because he couldn't play. He was out the league because they misdiagnosed who he was.
Mm.
So you could take another player who I think is the forefather of the stretch big position, and that's Bill Laimbeer.
Hmm.
Bill Laimbeer was slotted as a power forward, went to Cleveland, didn't really work out there because they was trying to make him a back to the basket player. That wasn't his strength. He ended up going overseas. The Pistons pick him up, turn him into a stretch big. He shoots over 100 threes in his second season there, and he makes the All-Star, four-time NBA All-Star, and wins 2 championships. So properly identifying a player or not identifying a player could be catastrophic. It could be
Yeah.
glorious or it could be catastrophic, you know. And that's just kind of like my old school historian in me. I always like to dig deep into the game.
Right, right. So, with me asking that question, and you gave players from 30 plus years ago, like, do you think that kind of negates the argument that players from previous eras wouldn't be as successful today?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that notion that I hear is, I don't think that's. I think basketball players are basketball players. Now, when you do got like some guys who was just like couldn't put the ball in their left hand, like you couldn't play into the, like, like, you know what I'm saying? But you got to just respect that era. Like that was that era of ball. But once you get to like the 70s, like like Dr. J could play in today's game. You see what I'm saying? Like you get some guys in the 70s that really could play in today's game. Elvin Hayes could play in today's game. Spencer Haywood could play in today's game. Iceman Gervin. So it's like don't get it twisted that them 70s dudes couldn't play in today's game, because some of them really could, man. Come on now.
And I think it's funny because like I'll watch like ABA footage and it looks like today.
Yeah, dudes
Like
flying all over the court.
so yeah, man, I really don't subscribe to that either. I mean, and then going the other way, like the only thing I'll say about players playing today, going back in time, is that just the physicality was different.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean, of course, that'll take an adjustment, but like you said, man, if you can play, you can play. Like there, and then like you brought up, there may be some guys that wouldn't translate, but the guys at the top, they'll be okay.
like Wilt Chamberlain will have a feast in today's league. Like Wilt Chamberlain is better than Andre Drummond, and Andre Drummond is doing well, right?
Mhm.
And this is nothing against Andre Drummond. This is just telling you how great Wilt Chamberlain was.
Right.
Wilt Chamberlain was better than Andre Drummond, and Andre Drummond is doing well with the Lakers right now. Like it's really simple.
Yeah, man. So like what makes a player fit into one of the modified positions? Like is it just purely but determined by skill set, or is it how you actually play? Cuz like I'm sure in your prophetic mind, you can look at a guy and be like, he could probably be a hybrid post, but he's just functioning as a power forward, and he's still really good as a power forward, but he
Yeah.
can do the other things as well. So would you label him a power forward because he plays like one, or just or would you, like, say if he was your player, if you were a coach, would you
Yeah.
try to graduate him to
Yeah, I would try
hybrid
to
post?
graduate him and say, look, this is really your fabric. It's at the end of the day, it's your fabric. What's your
Mm,
fabric say? Like you're a hybrid post by your DNA, but you're playing as a power forward. So let's get you to what you really are, because what your identification is, that's you.
right.
That's where you're going to be most comfortable. That's where you're going to maximize the most out of your potential. So
Okay.
yeah, I would definitely, but there is a lot of guys like that because of the metric. Because
Hmm.
there's only 5 slots, guys are playing in slots that really they could be better if you add 7 more, add the 7 other positions because it's like, man, like I'm really disguised. They got me playing power forward, but I'm really a hybrid post, or I'm playing point guard, but I'm more traditional.
Right,
Like
right.
it's so many dudes, but they don't know the terminology to really say that. I'm saying it for them. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm watching dudes like, man, he out there playing, they got him playing shooting guard, but he really more of a combo guy.
Right, right.
It's funny to watch when you know the positions, you start looking at the game totally different. You're like, why they
Yeah,
got
definitely, man. So, with that being said, is there any instances you could think of where you saw a guy start as one position and then over the course of time just morphed into something else?
Yeah, Rasheed Wallace.
Mm,
Think about it. Rasheed Wallace was a hybrid post, okay, when he came into the league. Just athletic, catching oops everywhere. And then as he got older, he turned into a stretch big.
hmm.
Rasheed started to be a pick and pop 3-point shooter. You see, like
Right,
he like you say, he graduated from hybrid post to stretch big. And that's the beauty of the metric, is that you can graduate to different slots depending on your style and your age of your career. Let's take Derrick Rose.
mm,
Derrick Rose came into the NBA as a hybrid guard, athletic, fast, dunking everywhere. Now he's just a point guard now. No
right,
more dunks, still effective, still quick, still has a little bit of his burst, can knock down some shots, but he's not a hybrid anymore. That's the beauty of this metric, is that you can graduate and you can go to different slots depending on the team you're with, or how injury may have slowed you down but increased your intelligence, like Derrick Rose, and you're still able to be effective in that slot.
got you. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. Because guys like the example you use, Rasheed Wallace. Guys get older, they're not able to do the same things.
You're
But
not a
in order,
hybrid no more. You old.
right, in order to remain effective, you
You
got you
stretch
got to
big
change
now.
some stuff up. Hmm.
That's the beauty of the metric. That's why it's a metric. It's a slot. You just, oh man, he's not here. He's here now.
All right, I'm going to cause some more chaos here.
Oh man. Here we go. What we got?
All right, rank the positions in order of impact, all 12.
Man, that's a tough one. Um, I'm gonna go dual forward as number one.
Okay.
Dual forward, number one. And then hybrid guard will be number two. Um, point guard will be number three. Uh, hybrid post will be four, and shooting guard will be five. Those are my top five right there.
Okay, cool. Why do you put dual forward as number one?
Because it's the end all be all position. It's the gaudiest position of them all.
Hmm.
The dual forward is really the everything. Like if I had to substitute the word, I would call it the everything.
Okay.
It's the one position that is everything. That's why you don't really have to slot change dual forwards,
Hmm.
because it's the everything. Larry Bird, dual forward. Grant Hill, LeBron, Luca, Giannis, Ben Simmons. These are dual forwards. Like these, this is a dangerous position. If you play it right, if you look at what Luca is doing right now for the Dallas Mavericks, he's epitomizing the dual forward position.
Hmm.
He's taken on all of the responsibility, and he's garnishing all of the statistics that comes with that responsibility of the dual forward. That's why, to me, it's really the most impactful position in my metric.
Okay. And that's interesting, man, given like, because, you take a player like Ben Simmons, then you take a player like Luca, and
Mhm.
their games aren't similar, but they're the same position. So like which version of dual forward do you think is
Right.
more deadly?
Right. So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. And I don't know if I said this to you before, but each position has tiers to it.
Mm,
So there's tiers to the dual forward. So you just gave me two different tiers of dual forward. There's a LeBron James tier of dual forward, and there's a Ben Simmons tier of dual forward. The dual forward, Ben Simmons is still a everything position.
hmm
Just because he doesn't shoot threes doesn't take away him being a dual.
Right.
He's still a great defender. He's still a rebounder. He's still a passer. He's athletic. He still makes decisions. Like he's still a dual forward. It's just that he's a different tier. There's different tiers of hybrid guards.
hmm
You got a Steph Curry hybrid guard, and then you got a Jamal Murray hybrid guard. They're both hybrid guards, but there's different tiers to it. It's different shades. It's just like it's like colors, right? You got
hmm
different colors. You got bright red, you got light red, you got burgundy. Like it's just shades of the same color. It's the
Right.
same thing with the position.
All right. Yeah, man. That's a pretty good breakdown, and I think it definitely helps, kind of it helps people understand different players, strengths, because I know what Luca does is more can be viewed as more exciting, because he's putting the ball in the hole and shooting
Yeah,
threes and stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, Ben Simmons, man, how Doc is using him this year,
His
like I mean,
impact is still there.
right, yeah, and it's hard to deal with that, like a 6'10" guy moving around everywhere, but still being able
Dual
to
forward.
direct the offense. Like that's
That's tough, man. That's tough.
all right. So this is something I really wanted to talk to you about
Mhm.
because you've been pretty vocal about it lately.
Okay.
So, in which you with these positions being updated, like I feel like I want to see you tackle the awards. I felt like first of all, I don't feel like there's any criteria for them.
No,
I don't think people even know what they want from these awards. Like, so do you think they need to be just changed altogether, or do you feel like you can kind of just kind of put some structure around what they currently are?
they won't do that because then it eliminates them to not be able to move the goalpost to who they want to win. They'll never put criteria around awards, bro. It eliminates people from moving the goalposts for who they want to win. If they gave you a criteria on what you need to be the most valuable player, if it was based on team success, blah, 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 this, that, and the third, and whoever does that fits that slot, then you
Mhm.
can't move the goalposts. So I think this should be a criteria, but it's going to take away the fandom and the entertainment of it all. And they're not going to be able to shape stories around their heroes by doing that. Trey Young didn't make the All-Star game this year. See what I'm saying? He didn't make the All-Star game this year, and he's on the verge of winning the playoff series.
Right.
Last year, he started in the All-Star game. Now, you tell me that isn't somebody moving the goalpost. What's the criteria then?
Yeah.
Because if the criteria, you create criteria, then he's going to never not make the All-Star game. But if
Right.
you allow people to move the goalpost, it would be some years where he don't make it and years he do make it. It's simple. This is not me. It's just I'm just telling you what's right there in plain sight.
Yeah, man. And I think I think that's to me, that's something that needs to be addressed because for one, it's money attached to it,
Yeah.
and two, like you said earlier, like they people get into these debates and arguments. I think if we actually sat down and nailed down like clear cut criteria
Oh
in
yeah.
metrics, then that would kind of quell a whole lot of this stuff. Because I mean, in regards to MVP, like sometimes, like if say all the things you brought up, team success and
Yeah.
stats or what have you, sometimes a guy on the best team can make it, but some years it's been, oh, his team's too good so he can't be MVP.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
you
But,
know
but that's the part of the you know adjusting the height. You adjusting the strike zone depending on who's up, who's batting. That's what they do. And it's it's I just think that with all the statistics and analytics that we have at our fingertips, how come we not using that to create criteria to find out who's really the person?
it's definitely possible.
Yeah, you don't want to use stats until you really have to use them, you
Right.
know. And it's like, okay, well, we got all these advanced stats. Let's create criteria so we can find out who's the real most valuable player and the defensive player of the year and the rookie of the year and the sixth man of the year. Like, who is it? Instead of, well, we got to all vote. Well, it's a bunch of votes from people with opinions. But if you use these advanced analytics that you guys like to live off of, then it eliminates you guys having an opinion, and it's just giving you a cold hard answer.
So give me your awards for this season.
Yeah, MVP would be Jokic. I just think that he has been, on the rise for the last 2 or 3 years, and
Hmm.
it's time we reward the big fella. I really had Chris Paul in there as well as making my top three. So it was Jokic, Chris Paul, and Joel Embiid were my top three finalists for MVP.
Okay. What about defensive player of the year?
Man, that was kind of yeah. I really like Bam Adebayo. Really, I really would have him as that, but they're probably gonna give it to somebody else. But I would have probably Bam Adebayo for me.
Okay. All right, let's go coach of the year.
Easily Williams from Phoenix. Monty
Mhm.
Williams, usually from Phoenix.
Okay. So like so with the awards, like do you think they all should be judged in a vacuum of just, that season? Or like if say for instance, like with Monty Williams, Phoenix, they had a weird year last year.
Yeah,
Eight missed a bunch of games and some other
yeah,
things happened and they kind of caught fire late. Then of course Chris Paul comes over and now they're number two in the West. Like you know do you think, yeah, we should just look at that as forget last year. We're judging this
no,
season.
yeah, it's a yearly award.
Right.
It's not a lifetime achievement award. It's what they've done in that one year. Who's the coach? It's called Coach of the Year, not Coach of
Right.
the Decade or Coach of the last 5 years. It's called Coach of the Year. So whoever was the best coach for this year gets the nod. So I would like to put Nate McMillan in there if he was with Atlanta all season, but he
Hmm.
hasn't. But he hasn't had enough games. But like I mean, Atlanta's been the hottest team in the NBA since April 1st, man.
Yeah.
That's not my opinion. Like that's a fact. I think they're 18-2 at home since April. They haven't really lost. Like Atlanta's the hottest team in the NBA.
Do you think do you think with this sometimes that stuff kind of creeps into, the decision making process? Like people are throwing out other factors that really didn't pertain to the particular season.
Of course, that's the human experience. Of course, of course.
All right, man. Let's get into some playoff talk.
Yeah,
What is going on in this Mavs Clippers series?
it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird because I think the Clippers are gonna win again and tie it 2-2
Hmm.
and go back to LA, and it's gonna be a dogfight. It's gonna go 7 games. Um, I think Dallas wins the series in 7. I picked Dallas, so I'm not going to change. I think Dallas wins in 7, but it's just going to be really weird. Dallas wins 2 in LA. LA is going to go to Dallas and win 2, and then they're going to go to LA, and Dallas is going to win that one, and they're going to go to Dallas, and LA is going to win in Dallas, and they're going to come to LA for Game 7, and Luka's going to bury them in Game 7. But it's just weird.
Right. And I mean, I know they're not going to stop them, but what do you think the Clippers can do differently to, at least give Lucas some resistance?
They're not trapping him. That's what they're doing. They're hoping that he just runs out of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in the playoffs, coaches don't want to show their full hand because they anticipate that they're going to make it to the second round. So they don't
Uh,
want to show their full hand. So the way Lou is playing Luka, he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna let you keep gunning until you run out of ammo." That's what it looks like. I've seen teams do that for years, and Luka's going to take advantage of you. One on one, you're not going to really be able to guard him. Like this dude is big, he's strong, and he's super duper crafty. So if you keep giving him single coverage, he's one of those guys you just got to hope he has an off night. But if he doesn't have an off night, man, you're not going to beat Dallas, man. If he doesn't have an off night, it's a wrap. He's one of the few players that can just do that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, man, they need to do something because they run into some issues, man.
Yeah, man, they can run some issues, man.
All right, going to talk about one of your kids,
Yeah,
Utah, Memphis.
yeah. Look, man, I need y'all to pull this one out for me. I just think Memphis is a really good half court team, and that's because of Ja. Ja is an underrated great half court player. I mean, he's out of this world in transition, but he doesn't get enough credit on how good he is in half court. His ability to dissect defenses and make plays and reads. That's why Memphis is in the thick of things. Um, I think Memphis wins both of these. And go up 3-1, and it puts Utah in a little bit of a pickle. But I'm going to stick with Ja here. Ja survives and moves on. The Grizzlies win.
Nice. All right. And you know this was coming. New York and Atlanta.
Yeah, New York, man. Look, I love you, New York. You guys are in trouble because you're burning the midnight oil with Derrick Rose, man. Like
Yeah.
Derrick is one of my all-time favorite players. Not just because of what he does on the court, just because what he stands for, his resilience, his perseverance, everything that he's been through, and what he contributes to the game today is such an inspiration.
Yeah.
That's why I love Derrick Rose. But as far as on the court, I think Thibs is burning them out because he's pretty much the best player on the floor outside of Trey. And I don't think New York just doesn't have enough bullets to keep up with Atlanta. Atlanta looks like what Golden State looked like before they started to really take off in the West. Like
Yeah.
right when Curry and those guys really started to roll, and Mark Jackson said this is the best shooting backcourt ever. Like right at when they started to ascend,
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta's doing that right now in the East. We're watching the beginning of the ascension of the Atlanta Hawks. And this is going to be a show for the next 4 or 5 years in Atlanta.
Do you think that's something I think about a lot, man. And with a few teams, they have like a decent core, but I I just feel like every time, we see a team like that full of young guys that show some potential and they start to materialize it, the business gets involved,
Yeah.
and teams aren't able to stay together. So
Yeah.
do you think Atlanta will run into that?
Well, Trey's still on his rookie deal. So anytime you get in the playoffs with a player on his rookie deal is big. And we already know that they're going to name a bank after Trey in Atlanta. They're going to name a bank after John Moran in Memphis as well. So, but then you look at the other players, the surrounding players, John Collins' contract is up. Um, that's going to be, we'll see how that plays out. But I do think you can keep DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish and those guys
Mhm.
because you don't have to, they're not max players,
Right.
right? So, in my opinion, Trey Young is the only max player on that Atlanta Hawks roster. So I think they'll be okay
Okay.
because when you have a guy like Trey, he's going to attract other players that want to come play with him.
Hmm.
So if guys don't want to be in Atlanta, they're not going to ask you to stay because they know they have Trey that's going to have other guys say, I want to go play with him.
Right. All right. All right, man. More chaos.
Oh,
So a little known Rashad Phillips fact. You spent a summer in Chicago with Mike. I need some MJ stories, man.
oh yeah, I did. I spent the entire summer with Michael Jordan, 2001,
Mm.
when he was getting ready to go to the Wizards. And it was the Kwame Brown year. Shout out to Kwame Brown. Um, it was like Jordan, it was like a glow. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, like I idolized Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas. Like, you know what I mean? So to be 22, 23 years old and to have Michael Jordan know your name and play pickup with him and watch him work on his craft, like it was something out of a dream, you know. Playing pickup with him, he was so fierce, he was so ferocious, he was very demanding, and he held you accountable. Um, and I've never seen a person hang in the air that long on a fadeaway in the post. I had never like, you see it on TV and you're like,
Right.
wow, like watching it up close. I had never seen like he was up there for a long time, bro. I had never seen anything like it. Like he would hang up there, man, and dudes will be still like coming down from
Hmm.
gravity. He will still be up there, and he rarely missed the entire pickup. He rarely missed shots. Like no matter what shot he took, it was like turnarounds over the left shoulder from 18 feet, turnarounds over the right shoulder with two hands in the face. It would be reverse layups with the right hand. It would be switcheroos. It would be two dribble pull-ups going right. Like he just rarely missed any of them. And I was just in awe. Like to the point where he'll pass me the ball sometimes and I'll be surprised that it got to me because I was just in all of just I just wanted to watch.
Right.
I'm like, go ahead and triple team him because I want to see what he gonna do. So those are some of my Michael Jordan stories.
So was this the summer? I know Jamal Crawford said before that he was
We were together.
oh, okay,
I was with Jamal. I was with Jamal in that summer. Yeah,
nice.
I was on it. I was on the team. It was me, Jamal, Jordan, and it was like I can't remember the other two dudes. We were on the same team, and we won the entire day. And I scored like 3 baskets. That's it. And I understood. Like I knew my role. Like
Right.
I'm on the floor with Michael Jordan, man. Like I hit couple like 2 or 3 deep threes and got like a fast break layup, but I was playing defense. Hey, I made sure that Jordan when he was on my ass, but I made sure I was doing my job.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it was that summer. I was with Jamal was there. We were at Tim Grover's gym. I was staying downtown Chicago. My neighbor was Corey Maggette.
Oh wow.
Eddie was my neighbor. Yeah, like I remember this like it was yesterday.
That's awesome, man. So, man, looking at your life in basketball, of course, your high school class was probably one of the greatest ever,
Yeah,
and you're acknowledged from all those guys as being,
yeah.
a great player. You just detail how you spent the summer with playing with Michael Jordan. Um, just talk about, I know we talked about this a little bit before, but just talk about kind of how you were able to navigate all that and without, even being in the NBA. Like just talk about, how these guys know that you belong out there, and then and just how did you internalize that?
Yeah. It was, it was tough, in the beginning because it's like watching your friends outside playing,
Hmm.
but you can't go out there and play with them.
Right.
That's how it felt, very early on in my professional career when I left college. I would see Kobe out there. I would see Tim Thomas, Rip Hamilton, Jason Hart, Mateen Cleaves, Jamal McGlure. Like these are all my classmates, Mike Bibby. And I'm watching them outside playing and having fun. And I'm thinking, how come I'm not out there playing, having fun? So it was really hard to accept that
Hmm.
at 24, 25 years old. And as I got older, I started to just understand the business side of it and know that, man, it really wasn't me. It was just timing.
Right.
And a lot of times in life, you got to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Um, I feel like I'm one of those players that you can use the term was before his time
Oh
because
yeah.
the way that I played is what's celebrated today. But when in my era, my style of play was alienated. It was like we don't want a 5'9" hybrid guard. We don't want that. So again, I'm a product of my own position's metric.
Hmm.
I was mislabeled and I was jammed into a box and I didn't fit that box. Um, and eventually I had to move on because I never could fit in that box.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Like with all your like your knowledge and you being miles ahead of like scouting departments and things like that, would you ever like join an NBA team?
It all depends. I would love to be a part of an NBA organization. That's never the issue. For me, is being what would my role be? Because I look
Mm-hmm.
at myself as a hybrid analyst. Like,
Mm,
so it's the same thing. I'm not just a scout. So you can't just put me in the scout box.
right.
Like, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a hybrid. So it all comes down to the organization understanding what they're getting when you hire a person like myself. But I would definitely welcome the invitation to be a part of an NBA organization, of course. If it's the Atlanta Hawks, if it's the Orlando Magic, or if it's the Phoenix Suns or Houston Rockets, Detroit Pistons, like I would definitely be open to have a conversation um, and making that happen.
Now, do you feel like just given the structure of of how organizations work, do you feel like anybody would be open to kind of modifying things to just take advantage of everything you could offer?
Sure, absolutely. I talk to enough NBA people to know that it's being used already.
Hmm.
So absolutely. I mean, this is something that NBA teams are always trying to find an advantage. Like, how can our scouting department be better than their scouting department?
Right.
Who do we need to add to our department to make us better than them? How come the San Antonio Spurs, how come they draft better than this organization? Well, maybe they have a guy over there that really knows what he's doing or can see. Well, maybe we need to add a guy that can do that.
Right.
So I believe my skill set gives an automatic advantage to whatever team that would like to bring me on board. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, man. That's like they people say, bad teams do bad things. So, so that's. But on the flip side of that, you got a organization like the Spurs who have been at the top of the heap or near it for 20 plus years.
Yeah, because they know how to draft and they
Mm,
know how to develop, right? They got the right scouting department. OKC, same
mm,
thing. They drafted three MVPs. Harden,
mm.
Durant and Westbrook. Like, so Troy Weaver knows he knew what he was doing, like, so you got certain departments that know how to draft. The Lakers know how to draft.
Mm.
Lakers know how to draft, like they got Randall, Clark's. They I don't know if they drafted Clarkson, but they Randall, Russell, like those dude Russell and those guys have been most improved players and all stars. You may have to wait on them, but the Lakers have had a history of making the right draft picks as well. So you got certain organizations that know what they're doing.
So, you've been able to see like years ahead of somebody's potential. Like you called John in the 10th grade.
Yeah.
So at the NBA level, do you think they would they will be open to kind of just watching a kid from that young and then just wait until he reaches that level?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to now. Especially if you had a person like myself on staff, you have to, because that's my specialty.
Hmm.
I'm able to go in the office and tell the GM, hey, there's an 11th grader, you know, in Wyoming that has a chance to be a superstar in the NBA. So we need to keep tabs on him now. So of course, it's all about trying to gain the advantage. So that's just how it works.
So with that being said, like, say hypothetically you get, you're in charge of personnel decisions for whatever franchise, Atlanta Hawks.
Atlanta, let's use the Atlanta Hawks. I want to be with the Hawks. Come on, the Hawks. Give me my Hawks. Come on.
And now, what do you think the trickle effect is if you start calling guys in the 10th grade and they and they fulfill expectations. Like, do you think that trickles down to like high school rankings and things like that?
Of course.
Seeing as how, a guy on nobody's radar in 10th grade, but Rashad Phillips said he's going to be an NBA All-Star, and it happens. Now,
Mhm.
do they have to kind of rethink how they do their business?
Yeah, you gotta make an adjustment because you never want to be behind the crowd, right? Like
Hmm.
you want to be in front of it. So you have to make the adjustments. Yeah, that's just or you're gonna get left behind. Like again, it's evolution, right? Like you want to stay with evolving. You want to continue to evolve. Like we want the newer phone when it comes out. We don't want the 2008. I don't want a 2008 iPhone. Like I want the 2021 iPhone, because it got different features. It does more. It has more storage. You see what I'm saying? Like you got to stay with the evolution.
All right, so more on your hypothetical Atlanta Hawks GM position. Now, how do you think like that if that happens? I mean, your track record speaks for itself. So of course, if you get into one of these positions, the
Yeah.
success will continue. So how many people you think careers you're going to ruin because they're going to try to duplicate what you did without the expertise?
I don't know. I don't want to answer that. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. I'm gonna let you media podcast dudes figure that out. Plead the fifth on that one.
Because I mean, like, and because like you said, you want to keep up with the times, but some I don't think people are gonna be able to keep up. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
I know what you're saying. I won't speak on it, but I know what you're saying.
hey, I'm just saying, man. I call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Um, so last question, man. Who's
Yeah.
the 2021 NBA champion?
Um, Brooklyn Nets.
Mhm.
History tells us that three dynamic players on one team win.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go against history. Anytime you put three dominant players on one team, they win a championship. Jordan, Pippen, Rodman championship. Magic, Worthy, Kareem championship. LeBron, Wade, Bosh championship. Durant, Curry, Clay championship. Durant, Harden, Kyrie championship.
Yeah. I just think it's gonna be hard to beat them 4 times.
What are we supposed to do?
Like God, man. Like is yeah, Jesus. That's a lot to deal with, man.
Tatum had to go for 50 to get a win. He had to go for 50 just to get a win.
Right, yeah.
Do that 4 times.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's boy. Yeah, man, this is gonna be interesting. Who so let me ask you this. Who you think poses the biggest threat?
I think Atlanta matches up well with Brooklyn
Mm,
because they can really spread the floor and shoot it. If you go back to the regular season, Atlanta gave Brooklyn some fits. I know I may be getting in front of things, but if Atlanta gets to the Eastern Conference Finals, because I think if they beat the Knicks, they can also beat Philadelphia as well. They can draw Brooklyn. They can beat them. But the reality is that the Milwaukee Bucks have the personnel to be able to defend them a little bit,
hmm
but I still just think it's just too much.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because you got three guys that can go for 35 in their sleep. Like
50. Yeah, like I just think it's just too much, you know. I'm being optimistic here, thinking that, that my Hawks can give them a run, but it's just the three dudes, man.
Yeah, I mean that's basically where I'm at with it. Like you you can try to come up with all this other stuff if you want
Yeah,
to, but just make don't overthink it. Don't
no, don't
overthink it.
over,
Three guys that good on the same team.
don't overthink it. Like it's not. This is one of those years where I'm not overthinking it and trying to come up with some deep, perspective on. I'm like, bro, I just don't see nobody beating Brooklyn 4 times with those dudes.
Oh man, yeah. All right. All right, man. That's all I got today, man. Thank you for joining me. And this was awesome. This was awesome, man.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, the last time I didn't have my background set up, I was getting things together, or we were quarantining and doing this and doing that. The world was a little shaky at that
Yeah.
time. I'm back in the office, got my light on, and I'm feeling good, man. So now I appreciate you bringing me back on for the second time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, you gave some great insight. Yeah, we talked about before, but I think this positions dictionary thing is just going to be great for basketball because it just solves a lot of problems before
Yes,
they even become problems.
yes, yes. I have some things coming up in the next couple of months with the positions metric. We'll talk soon on that.
All right, man. On that note, it's Raymond Lyons, of course, once again with Rashad Phillips, and we catch you guys next time.